Hello, hello. Welcome in, everyone, back to the podcast. So, today I'd like to invite you to grab a cup of coffee. It's morning, it's a Saturday morning here. I have my tea, grab a cozy blanket, maybe a journal. I'm excited this year. I've been sprinkling soulful conversations over this year with people in my life who I've connected with in a meaningful way, who I know are making an impact. And today I am so excited to welcome Samantha Wines. She is founder of One Shift Coaching. And Samantha brings a powerful blend of corporate leadership experience and deep inner work to her coaching. So she was raised in a Navy family, and having lived internationally, she learned early how to adapt and lead across cultures and embrace the unknown. Behind a successful career, Samantha also knows what it's like to question your path and navigate anxiety and self-doubt. For over 15 years, her healing journey has been shaped by yoga, mindfulness, holistic health, and now her transformational coaching. She is a 500-hour registered yoga teacher, certified holistic nutritionist, and ICF trained coach. And today, Samantha supports first responders, which I can't wait to talk to you about, emerging leaders, high performers by blending coaching, education, and somatic practices to help them stay grounded under pressure. She helps them move through transitions and design a future that's aligned, sustainable, and purposeful. So please join me in welcoming and my dear friend, my dear fellow yoga teacher, Samantha Wines. Thank you, thank you.
You for that wonderful, beautiful
Aw.
introduction.
And I always like to, so for those of us first meeting you, and I love to hear people's yoga journey story, but can I ask you, let's take me back to little Samantha. In your home, was there an experience that put you on a meaningful path, or was there spirituality in the home or faith? Or take me back to how there's usually a thread that starts to be woven in someone's life, especially guiding them to yoga. How
Mm,
did how did your personal growth journey kind of begin when you were young?
yeah. So interestingly enough, as a child, I think I had a really well kind of, integrated family. I have a brother and a sister, two Navy parents. We've, lived in multiple locations. We didn't move like every year like a lot of military families do, but we
Okay.
did do several, different stints in little areas. So for me, my mom enrolled us into dance. So I always was in ballet, tap, jazz, gymnastics. But yoga for me actually came later in my life.
Me
Um,
too.
yes. And so my childhood was actually very well organized. It felt very safe. But I knew from a very young age, I kind of had anxiety and it showed up in a very interesting way. And this is kind of funny now. And I always ask my mom, didn't you think there was anything kind of wrong with me? But I would organize my Disney classics by alphabet. They were selling, they were selling nutrition stuff, for their bodybuilder friends because they were bodybuilders professionally for 2 years.
Wow.
It was a brand called Neolife, and I would organize their Neolife closet with all of those, supplements and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
and keep it all organized. I would go into the cabinets and organize cabinets, and that was a way for me to feel, I think, safe in my own way, and just
Yeah.
to keep things organized. And that kind of carried on to later in my life. So that's when my anxious behaviors kind of started.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, like everyone, we have maybe one event or potentially a accumulation of events that could happen that
Yeah.
create some trauma or something that kind of changes the direction. And that happened for me around the age of 16.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward to when I got to college, I was extremely anxious. I couldn't stand in front of my, college class to do a presentation. I would cry to my professor, please don't make me do this. I just can't do it.
I totally relate.
And it was funny because in high school, I had no problem doing public speaking and
Oh,
anything of that
wow.
nature. I was in a marketing group, I would go to competitions. So it all changed because the trauma for me it amplified my anxiety. And interesting, I showed up, a friend of mine brought me to a yoga class, and I heard your yoga journey. And I think much like you, I was like, nope, this is, I can't slow down. I'm a triple A personality. I can't do
Yeah.
this. So the first time I experienced yoga, I wasn't present enough.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to absorb what was happening. So that got shelved. And then I started going to yoga again in my 20s, but again for all the wrong reasons. I would, kind of party over the weekend, and it was kind of like my detox, you know.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
totally.
but then once I started doing that every week, once a week, and when it started becoming memorized in my body in a sense. And I think your
Hmm.
yoga teacher also mentioned this as well. Even if you're not ready to receive all of the components, there's
Right.
a component that resonates with you.
Yes.
I'll fast forward now to kind of my adult life, maybe late 20s.
Hmm.
I picked up yoga again, and I just immediately fell in love with it. I was
Yeah.
going 4 to 5 times a week. I loved my teacher. It was at Awaken Studio in Lighthouse Point, Florida. And I didn't know what was happening to my body
Yeah.
or my mind or anything about the science of yoga, but I knew during that 75 minutes, I felt better. I wasn't thinking about what was riddling my life. I wasn't anxious. I wasn't thinking about the things that were, hurting me or making me feel sad. And I wanted more of that.
Yeah.
And so I decided that I wanted to become a yoga teacher, but not because I wanted to teach yoga.
Me too.
I wanted to just not pay for it anymore.
That's awesome.
And yeah, and so
Oh
I
my
was like,
God.
I'm going to become a teacher because I'm spending so much time in the studio because I was going 5 times a week.
Yeah, and it can be pricey. Yeah.
Like pricey and buying yoga
Hmm.
clothes, and I just didn't. I wanted to take that journey out of the studio and onto my own in my own space.
Yeah.
So I enrolled in yoga teacher training, and that was in 2014. I think the same year you
Same
became
year.
a yoga
We have
teacher.
so many parallels. It's so
Yeah.
crazy.
And
Oh,
I chose Anatara Yoga Shala, which is I've
great.
done a lot of training with Philip Christodoulou, who's my teacher. I love him because he's so deeply rooted in philosophy, physiology, and so many of the deep layers of yoga. I'm for one of the trainings because I've done 200 hours and all the different
Awesome.
modalities. And one of the trainings for Raja, he makes us completely, recite the Panjali Sutras,
Sutras.
yeah,
Hmm.
in Sanskrit.
Wow. Oh
So,
my gosh.
and one of the requirements is that he
Wow.
has to teach the poses in Sanskrit. So, all of that to say, I
Yeah.
absorbed all of this great knowledge, and I became a teacher. And the first time I taught, I was like, I'm obsessed with teaching. I love
Yeah.
teaching because I love bringing this. I want it to help people the way it helped me.
Yeah.
And I know I'm saying a lot of words, but I think that it's also important to tell you about this one component.
Yeah.
I got very used to teaching the vinyasa body,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Because I taught a vinyasa class in the studio for so many years. And then I started dating a first responder who I'm still with today,
Hmm.
engaged. And out about a year into dating, I literally Googled yoga for first responders because
My
I
God.
knew that he needed something. I just didn't,
Hmm.
I was like, there's got to be some like yoga out there for him.
Yeah.
So I came into contact with Yoga for First Responders, which is the nonprofit
I
organization
love it.
that I've been affiliated with since 2018. And what's interesting about their training, which I did a 6-day intensive with them, and I've still been affiliated with them. I'm a national trainer for them now. I do virtual coaching for them now. And I've gone back to teach at 6 instructor schools for them. Their style of yoga is completely opposite of what I
Really?
learned in my teacher training.
Oh my gosh.
No Sanskrit, no incense, no, it literally breaks it down to the bare bones of hatha yoga.
Okay.
And it's because
Just
you're,
the asana.
and the breath work.
Okay.
Breath work has takes forefront. The neuroscience that they give you is so in depth and so amazing. And if anyone ever wanted to go be affiliated or teach first responder population or military population, that would be the organization to train with because they are so good at what they do. And Olivia Mead, who's the founder,
Hmm.
she's done such a great job of just talking to that audience.
Yeah.
That all to say, I started teaching for the first responder population and I was like, lunge forward. And like they literally couldn't lunge.
Oh my
So
God.
going from teaching a vinyasa body, which is so fluid and so flexy, to teaching the first responder body, it made me such a strong teacher because
I
I
bet.
literally had to adapt, right? I had to adapt the way I teach. But yoga for me has been such an integral part of my anxiety. I still have anxiety, but I'm able to manage it through my practice and
Hmm.
through teaching and the modalities that come along with yoga.
Same. Yes.
A lot of
Absolutely.
words. I'll pause.
No, I love that. And at what point along that path, because I know you're still doing the first responder work,
Mhm.
in the background, you have a corporate job
Mhm. Not
D
anymore.
during
I
those years, though?
During those years, yes, I was working a corporate job, I was a sales professional, a
Yeah.
recruiter. I've been in outside sales multiple times. I've sold internationally, so always in a high pressure
High
position.
pressure. Yeah. And this is when we met and we were at several workshops and I was so excited because I was like, oh my God, she's like doing exactly what I'm doing, teaching yoga. And then we had our corporate jobs and I was like, oh my God, I totally relate.
Yeah.
And it's so tough. And then, so then you're doing your first responder. This is where I feel like a lot of people, a lot of yoga teachers out there or, coaches or whatever who have their corporate job. How did you decide, or was it a natural pivot into coaching?
So it's interesting. When I was in my high pressure job, I was in a recruiter job and I was a
Mm-hmm.
top performer. I was top five in the top five of my company of like, I
Awesome.
don't know, 60, 70 recruiters at the time. I was making a killing and
Oh,
loving it. I loved my job and I was naturally coaching. I was doing travel nurses at the time.
that's
And I was
awesome.
naturally coaching them. I used to joke and tell my nurses, "Oh yeah, I'm a life coach. I'm a financial planner. I help you navigate. I'm a resume
Yeah,
builder."
you have all these different hats.
And I literally would joke that I was a coach, and I would coach at times my nurses and to convincing them to take different opportunities because a lot of times these travel nurses would come, from a permanent job, and they're afraid to
Yeah.
take that leap of faith to go out on a travel contract away from home. And so I'm coaching them and I'm sharing with them. So it kind of started there. But when I decided that I wanted to pursue yoga for first responders, I was so passionate about that mission and
Hmm.
bringing that mission to first responders that I sought out some departments in my area. And I got a big contract with Coral Springs Fire Department. But the nature of the amount of classes and stations that they had, there
Hmm.
was no way that I could do both. So
Yeah.
I asked my corporate if they could find me another role within the company, but part-time, so that I could
Right.
this program and teach the classes to the first responders and stay with the company. And they did. And
Oh, I love
that,
it.
yeah, that role was in the learning and development arena. And it's funny because I still had anxiety about public speaking, and learning and development is training and coaching. So
Yeah.
I got the opportunity to do what my teacher now, one of my coaches, says practicing in public, which people have a lot of fear doing to
Oh,
break
yeah.
out into their new modality because I was so used to just running my desk and talking to my nurses on the phone.
Right.
So now to be in front of the other recruiters and leaving a senior recruiter desk in the top five, as soon as I moved to the training and development role, all the other recruiters are like, can you come sit with me? Can you help me? Can you help me be, they wanted to have that same level of success. So very quickly in my new role, even though I was doing training and creating training, because I was literally just dumping all of the information from the last 8 years of running a desk into modules to help other recruiters, I was now rolling up to their desks and starting to do sales coaching and
Awesome.
helping them uncover um, things that they didn't see themselves by questioning. And that's what coaching really is. It's really, you don't have the answers. Although I did, I was questioning them, Lisa, in a way that helped them find the answers on their own. And I think that's the powerful work that a coach does, is that gives you that power to get the answers yourself.
Yeah, you're like you become this flashlight.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's very empowering for someone to seek help from someone, to only realize that the answers are within them. And a great coach is someone that can do that and ask the right questions to allow that person to stand in their own power. And that's very empowering for people once they have that experience. So all that to say, I was doing the sales coaching. I ended up leaving that corporate job and
Okay.
doing yoga stuff for a while.
Yeah.
And then I went back to corporate in
Yep.
2022.
Okay.
I went into a senior leadership role,
Wow.
and I started more sales coaching and leadership coaching. The model of that company, which was still medical staffing, was that they were promoting their best sales performers into leadership. And if anyone knows anything about leadership and sales, not all great performers are great leaders. A lot of times they don't have the transferable skills. They were great performers,
Yeah.
similarly, but when it comes to leading a team and impacting a team's performance, a lot of them don't have those skills. So I stepped into that role for the new leaders at my this last company. And I think that I was just doing it. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just doing what
It
I
was
thought I.
very natural though. I mean, and you have, the qualities because first of all, when you first left your corporate job, like that takes so much courage to do that. I still have my corporate job. That's why I'm like, I have to talk to Samantha. That takes so much courage, especially when you're with a company so long, and you've built a foundation of security essentially.
Yes.
So the qualities of a coach, I mean, you're coming from lived experience, which to me, that makes the best coaches,
It makes the best coaches, it makes the best yoga teachers, it makes the best anyone who's looking to embody an impact role,
Yeah.
a soulful led role, a journey where you're, leading people through something. Embodied lived experience, I
Yeah.
is the best kind. And I'm not saying that people out there couldn't do the things that they are doing without that lived experience, but it just draws people to you naturally because you're coming from a place of heart
Right.
versus
Yeah.
maybe a place of head, which is kind of like, what do people want and need? You're like,
Exactly.
I know what I went through.
Right.
Certainly people out there that could resonate with what I went through, and they're probably going through the same thing.
And is this how naturally unfinished business was created? Can we talk about that? Because
Sure.
everyone out there, you have to follow her on Instagram, Samantha Wines, because your reels, sharing unfinished business, like they really spoke to me in a powerful way about, if you're a single parent or, you're under a high pressure job, in the corporate world and you're filled with fear, you can't pivot, you can't. Was
Yeah.
this where the idea of unfinished business, I never thought of it in the ways that you were sharing because there's so many different categories of unfinished business,
There are.
right? It's not about just, finishing cleaning out the closet. It's like way deeper, way deeper.
Yeah. Yeah. So, unfinished business actually was an idea that was sparked from a class that I took in college. I told you in college, I was riddled with, I was just in a bad place. I was putting myself through college, working multiple jobs, dealing with my anxiety. I was in an abusive relationship. So it was a very hard time in my life.
Yeah.
And I enrolled in this course called The Philosophy of Love. And one of the things the professor does is that he asks that the students that enroll in that class don't tell other students about the experience, which is so cool.
Wow.
He taught this, it's an entire playbook of, basically the best way to live your life. And he's later published a book, which I have. It's called It's How You Play the Game. And Unfinished Business was a title of one sliver of what he taught us. And I remember that, I don't exactly remember everything because it was a long time ago now, but I remember how it made me feel. And
Mm.
fast forward through my life now and pivoting and living overseas and doing all these different ventures that I've done, I've accumulated a certain amount of unfinished business, as we all do. And what I
Yeah.
noticed was when things would quiet down, and as I got deeper into my yoga practice and deeper into my somatic practices, things bubble.
Yeah.
Call that samskara, right? In yoga, it's the emotional scars of what we've gone through, and they're imprinted in us.
Yeah.
And that's why when you're in certain poses in yoga and, the things come up, you have a release. So I noticed these things were releasing and I would allow that emotion to come through, but I actually wasn't tackling the unfinished business.
Yeah.
So it was really it was a project that was really helping serve some of my own needs.
Mm-hmm.
And once I left my second corporate career in that leadership role, I was once what happens for me, because I've done it a couple of times now, these like random leaps of faith, especially when you're in a high pressure position, I feel like your creative flow is very stifled because anxiety and high pressure stifles creativity.
Yeah.
So when you remove that pressure, that the creative kind of just starts pouring out of you. And that's what happened for me. And literally I could hear in my ear, unfinished business, unfinished business, unfinished. And like, so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to move this into paper and maybe it'll come work itself into a workshop and maybe it won't. So I started creating a framework of identifying unfinished business, how it affects you. And you're right there. I put it into four categories and there's probably subcategories, but typically the two main categories would be personal and professional, right? You have a
Sure. Oh, yeah.
work and home.
Yeah.
And then you have, like you said, the project-based unfinished business,
Of course. Yeah.
paint house. And then there's these personal ones, like your friends and family. And then there's four different sections. And then I decided that, let me think about how my unfinished business makes me feel. And a lot of times we might associate an emotion, but I also noticed that there were deeper layers, like you mentioned, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
there's the emotional response, which is what triggers everything else. Any experience you have in your life is going to trigger an emotion, right? And then that emotion is then going to send a chemical reaction in your body. So now you have a physical response. Let's just say it's a negative one. Let's say I have now a headache
Yeah.
because I'm having literally a physical response thinking about it. Because I have a headache constantly, now what's going to happen is that's going to start translating into my behavior. So now I have these behavioral responses that accumulate, and I might lash out. I might be quick. I might be kind of
Short,
grouchy.
short-tempered and yeah,
And then,
irritable.
yeah. And then what happens from the behaviors is it actually is now disconnecting you from your soul self. And I don't want to be grouchy. I'm actually probably being grouchy to the people that I love the most, and that's going to push them further away. And that's not what I want.
Yeah.
So now I'm disconnecting myself. And so it is deeper. So there's these layers that we go through and that we discover in this workshop that I created. And then I take the participants through what I call conscious closure. And it's basically just four easy, practical, relatable, doable steps to help you you can't promise someone closure,
Right.
but you can
Right.
promise someone steps to getting there.
Mm-hmm.
The samskara, excuse me, is always going to be there because it's an imprint.
Yeah.
But when you are able to kind of face what's happening, and in a good, constructed way, to me, it's invaluable because I describe it like this, especially if you're in a corporate or if you
Mm.
work from home, you have multiple tabs on your computer open.
Oh, yeah.
So when you have multiple tabs on your computer open, what typically happens to the efficiency of your computer?
Slows down.
Slows down.
Yeah,
When
slows down.
your brain is your supercomputer. So when you have all these multiple tabs open, even though you're like, okay, I'll get to that later, or I'm saving that for later, and that's what unfinished business is, right? We're have these all these open tabs on all these different categories. It slows us down. It takes us away from our present moment.
This is like such an awesome way to think of it. And it reminds me of, I don't know if it was a TED talk I listened to or something, but it was about how, being, we can think that being a multitasker is something to be proud of at work, right?
Mhm.
Oh, I've heard myself say, I've got 10 things going on right now, and it's like that's not actually a good thing
Mhm.
because what are you actually mastering? You know what
Yeah,
I mean? What are you actually giving 100% to? Nothing. If
yeah,
you're that scattered. So people think that I'm a great multitasker. Well, is that such a good thing? Not
yeah.
really.
And multitasking is
I
what
mean,
helps high pressure professionals probably excel and exceed to a
right.
degree.
It's like it helps you survive and climb the ladder.
That's the key word, though. It's survivability, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
survivability. And survivability has got a shelf life.
Yeah.
We can't live in survival mode for an extended period of time without something eventually going wrong. And that's kind of an extreme example, but I think that anytime you have those 10 things, when you think about how you're showing up, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
It's scattered. It's not, it feels there's energy missing because you're like, but I have 10 other things. I got to get through this thing.
Yeah.
So you're not showing up. But if you were able to cut out three or four of those things, now you have
Right.
space and energy to move towards some of these other things that you need to tackle. And unfinished business, people like to avoid, and that's normal. It's
Yeah.
completely normal. But I will say that every participant that has gone, I did it twice this year, this workshop, and every participant said the same thing. I like now that it's done, like I just feel so different. I feel
That's
better.
awesome.
I
Yeah.
feel lighter. I feel more, in tune. And
And
it's
and more
yeah,
present in your life.
that's right.
And can people come back to it? Like, what I keep thinking of is, in this work, like personal development work, shadow work, right?
Mhm.
Is very deep. It can be very traumatic, for people to uncover. And like you said, our yoga practice does this. It'll bring things. You can go 5 years and not have a
Yeah.
reaction in a yoga class, and then all of a sudden you're like, why am I so emotional right now?
Mhm.
These imprints on our psyche will come up. But what I've realized is like, do you agree? Like shadow work and this type of work, it's an evolution. It's not like you're going to go, okay, I'm done. I did my shadow work. I'm good to go for the rest of my life. No, it's something you return to. It's something I think things could come to the surface more than one time, something, an experience in your life or a relationship or someone you meet or is going to bring something back to the surface. And then what you can offer are tools and your method and have them remember and go, okay, wait a minute, I'm falling back into my old
Mhm.
ways here. This isn't working. Like it's something that it continues, just like personal growth. It's not like you're ever done,
There's no
right?
one and done method. You're absolutely right. There's an experience that can happen. And you're, like you said, you could go 5 years. And a great example of this is, I thought I had kind of had some of my work done that I was, from that one incident that happened at 16. And it is connected to my parents.
Mm-hmm.
And I had done a lot of work on that, through the class, the philosophy of love class is what started my trajectory on self healing and self growth and help and all of those things. I thought I was really good to go. And
Yeah.
then I had a daughter. I have my
I
daughter's
know. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Look, oh,
And
you're a mom.
yeah, and then suddenly now I'm a parent. So my experience of what I went through came through again
I
because
bet.
I'm re-experiencing being a parent with her. And it doesn't have to be with a child. It could be, like you said, with another person, a boss in your
Sure.
professional life. There's things that I hate the word trigger, but that will evoke. It's evocative. It will evoke
Yes.
emotions and responses, and even nervous system responses. Your body doesn't feel safe, so your nervous system will now respond to a situation because of an energy of a person or a personality of a person. So yeah, it's a lifelong, I think, journey.
Yeah, and there's so much value in the work that you're doing. And I keep visioning, like, I feel like these corporate companies should offer like someone like you there, to work with people because I feel like today, like life is, like the waves in the ocean. Like it's not always going to be an upward trajectory. We're going to have the hills and the valleys and the storms are going to come and then it's going to be smooth sailing again. And so I feel like your type of work, the coaching, personal growth is
Mhm.
so important. And I wish like the younger generation, I almost wish there was classes in like emotional intelligence this could even be a college course,
Mhm.
unfinished business. How amazing would that be? Because I feel like there's a lack of resilience out there,
Mhm.
inner strength. And this type of work can provide a foundation, I feel like, of personal strength, and of, like you said, getting back to your soul, getting in touch, in tune with your higher self,
Yeah.
and then recognizing when you're not in alignment with your higher self, like, oh, I just freaked out on that person, why did I do that? Let's the physical body.
Mhm.
People are eating unhealthy. Maybe they've packed on weight a certain year. That there's reasons this is happening because it's you're not processing and
Mhm.
responding to life, in a well balanced, healthy way. But these tools, I feel like, are so needed and necessary. People need to be aware of them. That's why I'm so happy to share you today because I feel like there's so much value in this type of work and working with a coach one on one. And have you seen your clients flourish?
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm going to comment on that in a second, but I definitely
hmm,
wanted to say that awareness, I think, is the first step to any aligned action. That
yeah,
you can't change habits that you're not aware of. So, through yoga, through education, and through coaching, which are the three things that I am focused on, I'm
hmm,
calling it integrative wellness because for me, obviously medicine's a different thing. I'm not a medical professional, but wellness is definitely an area of focus. My journey happened yoga first, education second. The yoga came first, the physical movement came first. And I think a lot of people get drawn to yoga for physical practice, and that's
yeah,
where they start. I got an amazing education with my teacher, Philip Christodoulou, but we have many teachers in life, and yoga for first responders gave me the neurological education that I needed to connect the dots.
right,
That's really because they were so heavy in neuroscience, and that sent me down a trajectory. It's very important to understand the why if you're doing something. A lot of people drag their friend to yoga and we don't know why we're doing it or understand the benefits. I'll go back to what I said earlier. When those 75 minutes were happening, I didn't understand physiologically what was happening. But now that I understand the neuroscience,
right.
no wonder I wasn't anxious.
Right, yeah,
No wonder my nervous system was regulating itself, right? Because I
yes,
had the tools. So you combine yoga or any somatic experience. If you're not a yogi, you can do breath work. There's mindfulness. There's the art of stillness. There's all these wonderful modalities within that kind of arena. Then you have the education, the why. Why do these work? Tell me the facts. A lot of
hmm,
people love to hear that science-based stuff because this kind of work can be very ethereal and the
of
concepts are
course,
so when you give people hard facts, there's a resonation there that allows them the ability to move it forward for themselves because they're like, okay, I get it now. And
Mm-hmm.
then you add on the coaching component, which came for me after the first two. That's really what helped me change. That's
Yeah.
what helped me see the spark in other people to ignite that spark for themselves. A lot of people struggle, whether they want to admit it or not, with the anxiety and fear of being judged and
Yeah.
all
We
of
all
these
do.
things. It holds them back. And
Mhm.
to know that they had the answers all along, what a beautiful, powerful, amazing. Again, for me, I don't care how important I am. It's really truly I'm
Mm.
committed to making impact. That's always been my goal.
Yeah.
That will be the goal until I am no more.
Have you, and it's so important, and I totally relate to. So my husband is a very logical thinker, you know.
Mm.
He was in IT for 20 years, very extremely logical. So here's my, he marries a yoga teacher in my world of, spirituality, and I read all these authors, and he's kind of like, okay, whatever makes you happy, But during COVID, I'm going to name two names. I'm sure you're familiar with Bruce Lipton,
Yes, of course.
Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Love. Yeah.
Okay. So
Favorite.
I was so excited because I got him to take a course with Dr. Joe Dispenza. I'm like, it was online, but it was powerful. And we listened to the biology of belief with
Yeah.
Bruce Lipton. And once we did that, he was like, this is something I can digest, like he
Yeah.
needs, just like you said, to hear some facts about the mind, the way the mind works and how our cells respond to the environment and that connects with this, manifestation is such a huge trend now, it's all over,
Yeah.
you know but once you get into that, the brain, the neuroscience of it all, it's so fascinating to me. So that's something I feel like having that part of the coaching process will help so many people, because people, not everybody, like you said, is interested in taking a yoga class, but all of these other things, once they learn about the power of our mind, it's amazing.
It makes it more accessible for
Right.
that wouldn't normally dive into something like that. And
Yeah.
um, such a strong component because even myself, I did yoga for 2014. I get 4 years I was committed to teaching and practicing before I even understood the depth of neuroscience that I do. That's where with Yoga for First Responder 2018.
Yeah.
And
Me
I
too.
still study it today. I'm
Me
still
too.
diving in
I'm
and
fascinated by it.
I just listened to the audiobook from Joe Dispenza, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And I was
Love
just soaking that up. And, it's not a one and done. And you
it.
have,
It's
for me,
not. Yeah. It's a
it's
process.
so deep and it goes so far. But I do believe more people could have access to these amazing practices if they understood the why.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
love that I knew, I was like, she has to know Dr. Joe Dispenza. I
Oh, for
have
sure.
one of his books on audio right now, and I'm trying to think what the heck is the name of it.
Mhm.
And I have to take it because it's a lot. It can be a lot. So I take it in pieces, when my mind is able to take in that type of information.
Not something that you can multitask with. I feel like
Yeah. I
you
tell
have to
people like take it in
focus,
small bites.
right?
Small.
No, I often have to like replay it again. I'm like, what did he
Me
say?
too. And then I write it down. I find that journaling, writing things down for me is such like a mind, body, spirit practice that helps me,
That's part of
digest.
that's part
In
of
in
unconscious business, actually,
Oh,
is
it is
yeah.
the power of journaling.
Well, the conscious closure piece,
Okay,
not everybody's a journaler.
I know. It's
Tactile, using your senses, and feeling a pen and writing the words is very important to move things through and on, if you
hmm
will. So there are other components of the conscious closure framework, but writing is a huge, great healing piece for people. So if you're listening to this and you don't like writing, I
right.
invite you to try.
hmm
Mhm.
And describe. So, who is your ideal client?
Oh.
Like, describe him or her. What is she doing today? What is she feeling like today?
Hmm. My ideal client is someone that is overwhelmed. They're in a position that is very demanding. And it could be physically, it could be mentally. A lot of times I have the clients that are really challenged and overwhelmed mentally are usually ones that are coming, but I do work with first responders, and I believe that their job is physically challenging as well.
Mm.
But they want a different way. They don't know how to navigate moving out of that behavioral response is starting to take over, right?
Yeah,
They're short-tempered, they're short fuse, they are lacking sleep, their day-to-day activities are being affected by their job, but they don't know how to turn it off because
yeah,
they think they're just wired this way.
yeah, good. Yeah,
They're the way I described myself, a triple A personality, A and B personality. Triple A, they're on, and they really are seeking the tools and the means to live a more, I don't love the word balance, but live a more practical, reasonable, and grounded life where they don't feel like work is their everything.
right.
That's
That's beautiful. And so on this podcast, I do talk a lot about our mind, body, spirit, self-love, how we care for ourselves is a consistent practice. What does that look like for you today? Like, do you have a strict routine daily? Do you do mind, body, spirit practices daily, weekly? Are you cold plunging? Like, give us the scoop on how you are caring for your mind, for your body, for your spirit.
I feel like the rigidity of my corporate career had a big part to play in my burnout and showing up the way I did. So for me, I have a variety of daily practices that I turn to. One day it might be, again, going out in nature and just putting my feet in my grass, taking a longer walk, going down to the beach and walking so that I can see the water. And the next day might be journaling or listening to a podcast or something that fills me up, that is going to give me some space of knowledge that's going to help me feel more grounded. I really have been leaning heavily into meditation. It wasn't a practice that I did a lot, I will say, in the past, but it came back to me. I did a 21-day journey with a teacher here locally for meditation, and I just fell in love with some of the things that he shared during that journey. And I do feel so much better after I spend just even 5 minutes. And I'm practical, I'm reasonable, especially when you're talking to high pressure
Yeah,
professional. They don't usually have a lot of time, and
right.
you got to start small.
Hmm.
So for me, it's not this, I don't have these like generous 1 hour. I wish I had that. And maybe my
Right.
practice will turn into that one day. But today, in this moment, I do daily some kind of either a movement, a
Yep.
meditation, a journal, or something to do with outside. And those are the 4 or 5 things that I typically do every single day. And they just go on rotation based on how I'm feeling.
Hmm.
Might be really tight. And I say, it's going to be really important for me to move my body for even 5 to 10 minutes. So I'll do that. Or if I'm feeling super overwhelmed, I'll say, you know what, I think it'd be cool if I went down to the beach and got connected to the waves and, just see
Nature.
the sun shining in my
Yeah.
face and just, have people there and you're interacting with other people's energy. And it's just very important to have something. But
Yeah.
that's my variety that I typically choose from, one of those 4 or 5 that I
Yeah.
mentioned.
I'm leaning in. It's funny, my yoga teacher, journey has evolved. I teach more meditation now than anything. And it's so, I tell people exactly what you said, even just 3 to 5 minutes of closing your eyes and take a deep breath can completely shift your nervous system. It doesn't take much.
Yeah.
The body will calm,
My
you know.
coach did a really powerful exercise, and I'll say the words that he said. It was
Hmm.
just this week, and it was just when we are closing our eyes, and it's just be in the stillness,
Mm-hmm.
with the stillness.
Yeah.
It's so hard for people to do that. But when you practice that regularly, there's something that happens within
Yeah.
your body and your nervous system that just allows you the permission to just be.
Yeah.
I hear people talking about it a lot. I don't know how much action people take, but I will say it sounds like you do the same. Be with the stillness.
Mm-hmm. Oh
Be
yeah.
with, be with the silence.
I have to, especially because I have a high pressure corporate job. I do. I am very disciplined. Like my husband knows, I have to get on my mat after work. I have to. I
Yeah.
have to. It's a non-negotiable with me.
Yeah.
He he made this lovely little yoga room for me, and I'm home, I change, shut the door, you know. And then sometimes at work, I will, and I teach this, I guide others, hey, go to the bathroom, shut the door, nobody's in there, they don't know what you're doing, and breathe, put your hands on your body, and breathe. But it's like you said before, everything comes down to awareness.
Mhm.
Awareness, you have to start becoming aware of what's going on in your mind,
Yeah.
how are you treating your body?
Mhm.
And like you said, so many people in these high pressure environments, they're just not even aware. They're AAA, like you said. But if you can stop and pause and go, okay, wait a minute, I need some help. The work you're doing, I swear it should be in companies.
It
Like,
will, it will be. I mean, I'm just launching my business for, the first
yeah, I'm
year.
so excited for
Yeah.
you. And it's
It's
important work.
it really is. And I think that, it's again lived embodied experience. It's basically my client is me,
Mm-hmm.
and what I went through, and the challenges that I've had. And I think everything that we're sharing is just so powerful. And I think that you show up as a person that is dedicated to their practice, the calmness of your voice and just the presence, that alone shows you that this whatever practice you're dedicating yourself to, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's movement or breath or stillness or silence, it really can change so much about you,
Yeah.
emotional, behavioral, physical, mental, and awareness is key. Awareness is the
Awareness is
starting
key.
point for everything. And swapping, a lot of times we would just, especially in high pressure roles, I think we swap out. We want to just check out. I know that
Yep.
was my experience. I want a glass of wine. I want, trash TV, whatever is going to help me check out from
Mm-hmm.
my life. And when I started swapping those with my practices, my self practices, everything changed. Things really drastically changed for me.
So powerful. I
Yeah.
love it. Well, I appreciate you talking to me today and sharing this. But I just want to say that I see you, I hear you, I honor your commitment, and these conversations I've had, I call it, you know, answering the call. And I honor you for answering the call that's in your heart to offer the love, the care, the help, the guidance for all the souls that are meant to receive from you. I just honor your commitment and your to watch your growth and your evolution is and your strength is really inspiring for me.
Thank
And I
you.
just want to tell you that. And I'm very excited to share this conversation with everyone. And I will put all the links in the show notes to your website, can we reach out to you there? Should we DM you on Instagram?
So my web's under construction right now. It should be back up
Okay.
in about a week. But it's
Okay, that's fine. I'm
one
going to
shift
put the
coaching,
link to the site.
oneshiftcoaching.com. I do have events. I do virtual workshops. A lot of those are free if you want to just kind of get a sample of what I do. I'll put my local yoga classes that I teach, up there. But my website, you can find me on Instagram. Working on YouTube. I'm available there, but not too much is there. But it's all growing. If you want to be part of it, yeah, I
Yes.
would love to receive you.
Awesome. And I'll put all the links to everything in the show notes. So thank you, thank you, thank
Thank
you.
you for having me. It was so nice to
Cheers.
meet
I
you.
know, so nice. And have a beautiful weekend, and I will talk to you soon.
Okay, sounds good.